We all have or have had acquaintances who are forever in credit, can't afford a comfortable home or a vacation with their family. Moreover, they constantly complain about the lack of finances, and most likely they don't even have a safety cushion. Such people don't recognize reality and don't try to change anything. They sink to the bottom of loans and debts, eventually driving themselves to complete financial exhaustion. They often don't even realize that their current problems are the result of gross financial mistakes they made in their youth. The consequences of these mistakes take a very long time to sort out, and it so happens that most of these mistakes we make in the period from 20 to 30 years, and most of them are related to the lack of basic financial literacy. And perhaps you are in such a situation now, but I can say for sure that such mistakes can be avoided. And in this video I will talk about the fatal money mistakes of the youth of the current and past generation. This video will be especially helpful to those who are in their 20s and 30s right now, those who are just at the beginning of their financial adulthood. But even if you are far over 30, be sure you watch this video till the end. First, because it's never too late to change your life for the better. And secondly, because correcting these mistakes can help you get rid of poverty and constant minus your account. Alright, let's go. So let's start with the first mistake. When we are young, we don't have a lot of experience or extensive knowledge. Our only resource is time, and trying to get quick results, we trade time for money. But while we are green, our time is cheap, as you realize, and we end up exchanging a huge amount of time for a small amount of money. So the number one mistake is trying to get quick results. Often it can be quick and even relatively good money, but while some peers are building useful acquaintances, potentially interesting connections, the other half are living as a rule, one day at a time. Yes, they may even be earning more now, but they are not investing in their future. Their paychecks and employment are growing, but not their knowledge and skill. What is important is that instead of money at a young age, you should get experience. Taking it, let's say, from a boss, a mentor, a manager, some colleagues, or perhaps enterprising friends. And it's very important to pump yourself, your skill, your expertise, so that these skills can feed you and allow you to constantly increase the value and price of your service. But if you are still trading your time for quick money, think about it now. Is your value as an expert and the price of your time increasing? If not, you are probably running in the wrong direction. Of course, I realize we all try to earn money for some basic needs at the beginning of our journey, but you don't have to become hostage to this process. Because if you want to increase your importance as an expert, as an entrepreneur, or a master of something, the right thing to do is to exchange time or skills, at least at the beginning of your journey. And you only then, over time, you can start converting your time, your skill into money at a much higher rate, while others are still trading in the same place, killing time and filling it with just basic tasks. Now for the next mistake. Imagine you are 20 years old and you have gotten a job at a big company in some entry-level position. You have a cool supervisor who usually teaches you a lot, interesting meetings, networking, cool team. You don't get paid that much yet, but you have interesting prospects. And then you are offered a position with a big salary and bonuses in a field that you are not so interested in, but is highly paid right now. What to choose? I'm sure that the most of you would choose a high-paying job right now. And it's logical, of course, new clothes, iPhones, cars, vacations, family, and so on. I understand you even here, I admit, but this is the alluring trap of the brain, and the very regular paycheck that will put you on its certain needle of stability for a long time. And there is nothing wrong with that, it's normal. But there is only one question here. The question is what you are aiming for. If you want to be a sought-after professional in a few years with well-established connections and great potential, then I think the choice is obvious, and it is, of course, not in favor of fast money. Yes, of course, there are situations when you are really offered some high-paying job and it lies exactly on the vector of your interest. But as a rule, it's not so. Therefore, the second mistake follows logically from the first. Taking a job for the sake of earning money instead of learning something, potentially gaining new acquaintances, or let's say growing professionally. I have clearly realized for myself that I am now ready to quit a boring and high-paying job in favor of going, let's say, to some experienced entrepreneur, businessman with money and expertise. And there is nothing wrong with working, as they say, for an uncle for a few years, because it converts to other benefits. Every day, watch how he manages his business, notice its strengths and weaknesses, its shortcomings, see how he makes decisions, how he manages his team, and in my opinion, such experience is more valuable than any money, at least at the start. I'm not saying that absolutely everyone should do it. I'm sharing here only my opinion and my experience of staying the world. Because I believe that when we are 30, 35, we will want to reap the results of our labors. Wife, children, obligations don't allow us to just take and gain experience for free with the same passion and energy that we had, let's say, 10 years ago. So, at the start, don't chase money and status. When you are young, it's much more better to invest in yourself, spending more on status than on investing in ourselves. Remember, when we are young, we think that everything external matters a lot, and we are sure that we are constantly evaluated by our clothes or new phone, for example. And I understand the desire of young people to show off, especially now that we live in the age of social media, where everyone just flaunts their luxurious lives. But in reality, none of it really matters. I will tell you a secret: people who have worked their way up from the bottom to really great results don't dress up head to toe in obviously some standout brands. By the way, there is a very beautiful phrase that I heard from Misha Takovinin on one of his podcasts, who said, "I can buy a Lambo, but only to delight the passengers of the trolleybus. But really serious guys will laugh at me, because they know that Lambo is a so-so car." So think again about this phrase, who you want to impress, and direct your money to developing yourself, to interesting trips, to meeting people that will lead you to great results and money in the near future. If a person is essentially a nobody, then clothes will not help him anyway. Now I think everybody knows about such an important element of financial literacy as a safety cushion, but in my opinion, not when we are young. And mistake number 4 is fanatically saving instead of investing in yourself. Let's look at an example. Let's say that 10 years ago you were making 1200 a month and you were saving $200 each for a safety cushion. That is, you were making $2,400 for the year. And maybe 10 years ago it seemed like a lot of money to you. But in today's world, it's enough for 2 months at most to live a normal life. And now the question is, was it worth it to deny yourself a whole year? Because in fact, instead of that, we can use this money for additional development, to get some cool experience that will inspire us with new ideas. And soon the cushion that used to be saved up over a year will be a matter of 1 month or half a month or 1 day at all. And all because you invested in yourself, studied, traveled, gained experience with business sharks. So don't be afraid to lose, especially when you are in your 20s. It's much scarier to be left with a penny cushion at 35, with no skills, no connections, no experience, and finding yourself in some unwolfed job. Next mistake, living with the wrong people. I'm not saying that you can't rent an apartment with your friends or live with your parents. It's a mistake to live in the same area with people with less ambition than you, with people whose values are very far from you. And if they are toxic people, you usually become toxic very soon. And some of you will probably say that this way you can save money and could have invested in yourself. This is true. But nothing prevents you from saving this money while living with like-minded people. It's very important to understand that if we live with people with whom we are not on the same wave and who are pulling us down, sooner or later we will find ourselves in their swamp and then at the bottom together with them. So next, not estimating the term of your commitment. It's very common for young people to get into projects where they can make good money. That's great. But often they don't consider in advance how much time and resources it will take. In other words, is it simply worth the gamble? Let me give you an example. Imagine you take on a project that lasts a few months, or better yet, a year. In the end, yes, you make money, but you come out of this project completely burned out and without energy. Yes, you make money, but essentially your time is wasted, because you will have to recover for a very long time. At the same time, you could have done 5 small projects during the same period, get absolutely different experience and get high from the fact that they're finished with your participation. That said, often, and even more likely, the amount of money you made would have been similar. Yes, of course, over time you will have some long-term projects with impressive commitments, but by that time you will be ready for it. Believe me, once you have experience, other projects will come along and they will find you on their own. And at the start, don't bury yourself in huge commitments. Always look for a balance between the time spent on the project and the profit from it. Measure yourself against your readiness for the experience. Don't just chase numbers. The next mistake is the lack of rigid financial accountability. As it seems to me, you should be very clear every day how much debt you have, what your monthly one-time payments are, what is the difference between income and expenses, and so on. No one has cancelled the basic rule that money loves a bill. First, you need to understand what your financial picture is in general. By the way, most people don't know anything about it at all and don't realize what they have going on in their financials. Secondly, in this case you have a clear understanding of reality and then all the smallest expenses, which in the moment seem unnoticeable. In the monthly calculation, open your eyes to reality. As many people do, they get a paycheck and spend without thinking about the future. And here, of course, investing in yourself is out of the question. The question is how to live until the end of the month. And then you fall back into the trap and everything happens all over again. So guys, don't fall into the financial trap. It's very dangerous. Make yourself spreadsheet and a Google Doc, for example, with all your expenses and incomes, all your assets. Or now there are a huge number of phone apps that link directly to your card. We very often forget about the most important thing in our lives, what sometimes money can't buy, even for a lot of money, is our health. And often we begin to realize it when we have grown up and faced some first problems, or when we see that our body is not as fast as it was when we were 18, 20 years old. So it's a mistake not to look after our body and our diet. How does this even work out? The constant race makes us forget about nutrition and training. And to relieve stress, we usually drink, party until we pass out, at least somehow relax. And even if in your youth we didn't make the previous mistakes I mentioned, we kept, let's say, clear finances, invested in ourselves, but stupidly forgot about our body. As a result, at the age of 35, we stand in front of the mirror and see a fat man with shortness of breath and a swollen face. And then we start to have healthy problems and hard, long attempts to lose weight, as a consequence of which the focus of attention shifts and become not to business, not to finance. We begin to deal only with our health. So whatever happens in our lives, you should always deal with yourself, your body, and your condition. And all we really need is regular training, good nutrition, and the absence of bad habits that poison our lives. Because without health, nothing will matter, not even your millions, billions, and so on. Well, my dears, let's summarize the results. If this video was useful to you, be sure to put likes, share your insights. And what I want to say to you is that you are very good if you watched this video till the end. And I am very pleased that more and more people are interested in the topic of self-development. And in this case, probably financial literacy. Because it shows that you care what your life will be in the near future. Thank you very much for everyone. I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.